Growing up in the state of Indiana, Bradley Betts was a promising young baseball player until the age of 18 when he was in a storm that uprooted a tree, striking him in the back and severing his spinal cord. The next several years of his life, he spent figuring out who he was and what it is he wanted to do until he ultimately found the sport of bodybuilding. Now, an IFBB professional wheelchair bodybuilder, Bradley and I today talk a lot about pursuing your dreams and not allowing your circumstances in life stop you from achieving anything that you want to achieve.
Quite frankly, it's kind of unusual.
It's quite Franklin.
Got it. Quite Franklin.
When you started as an amateur, did you start training basically full time? I know you drive. Do you log like a full-time week of work driving Uber?
No, so the Uber full-time started over the last few years. Actually, I could Uber. I got this Uber. My cousin was telling me, which I'm at his house now. And he was like, you ever thought about Ubering? And I was like, man, like I could. I was like, I just got to figure out how to put my wheelchair in the trunk because obviously you can't put it in the seat or behind me. People are going to be sitting there. But my seat folds down, and I figured out a way to jimmy the seat where, I can fold it down from my seat in the front and put my wheelchair in the back where it's broken down. Even people, at airports can still fit their luggage in the back on the other side. And I started doing it full time. And it's really weird because I was actually, when I went to jail for like a day and then got released, but I was crawling on the jail floor at Marion County and like, they wouldn't let me pee. It was horrible. My lawyer, I hired like the really good lawyer, and he was like, do you want to sue them? And I was like, no. There was another guy that was mistreated in there that had like gunshot wounds. And I was just like, but make sure he's okay. And I was like, but before I went and saw my lawyer, I'd opened the Bible for the first time because I was just, kind of lost at that moment. And, I was facing 10 years. I didn't know what was going to happen. And
what year was this that you went to jail?
I think it was 2017. And and I opened a Bible to a random page, and I shit you not, it reads, Jesus forgives and heals a paralyzed man. And what I took out of it was to kind of change my surroundings and my habits and my hobbies. And, the people I hang around. I really found out a lot about who my friends were because, those little 10 sacks of, weed, people weren't coming to get it anymore, or trying to smoke for free. Those friends faded away. But my true friends actually same friends from high school stayed. They helped me and I told them I wanted to go into bodybuilding. They still didn't believe me at this point, like that I was really into it. Oh yeah. I was like, I'm going to take it to the next level and like really take this seriously. And I was already pretty serious. Like I was on my diet and I was still on my diet. But it was more like, I want to get not that I wanted to get my pro card, but I wanted to focus on it a lot more.
Yeah, but getting your pro card wasn't the goal. It was just a byproduct of basically a pursuit of excellence or whatever in essence.
Dude, I loved it. I just loved it right away. Like I said, I started Ubering 40 or 50 hours a week, and that was the first time ever doing that. And it gets exhausting. Just like this week, I'm like going to do 110 rides in 6 days. And I'm like exhausted as heck. Like I think I slept like 9 hours, probably 10 hours the last 2 days, which is not good for a bodybuilder. So I'm going to catch up on that tonight. Oh, yeah. But you have to find ways to make money outside of bodybuilding, which I understand bodybuilding is my niche, but it's broader than that. And I want to create something out of it. And I know I have to take advantage of opportunities like this, and especially with like-minded people in the fitness industry. Doesn't matter what exactly it is, but we're all related in some sort of way as athletes.
Let's take a step back because you talked about your wheelchair in the Uber car and you talked about crawling around on the jail floor. And for the listeners, so you had an accident in 2009. Would you call that an accident? What had happened to you? Tell the past. Yeah, tell the past because you grew up as an athlete, correct? I mean, you played baseball your whole life, and apparently you were a very promising baseball player.
Was about 6'5", 215. 17 years old. I did have a promising outlook. On Max Reps, which was a high school scouting site, they ranked me top 600 as a baseball player, and I was just getting good and stuff. And I was actually always into fitness. Now that I think about it, like I worked out. I was top 30 student at my school as far as strength per pound of body weight or whatever, however it went. But what happened to me was we would have these little like graduation parties or whatever after high school. And me being a junior in high school, my senior friends from the baseball team had this cookout we were going to. So we were at my house first and having a little get together, and we were leaving there. When we were leaving there was a storm. So we were putting some stuff away in the shed. And there was like 4 of us in the shed at the time, putting things away. And all I remember, like, it was raining, but not really hard. And it was windy, but nothing crazy. But all I remember is the wind shutting the doors really quick and then hearing a boom. And that's when I like instantly just hit the ground. And I almost was like, I was folded over my legs forward completely. And I knew right away I couldn't feel my legs. I was just like, hey, man, like I'm hurting or whatever. And he yells back that his knees are broke but it was kind of like a war scene where you just, or like a video game, you know, when a grenade goes off and you just hear that ringing.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. And then voices were really loud. And my brother came out there and I told him right away, I said, I can't feel my legs. I don't really remember when they told me I was paralyzed, but I do remember I was pretty okay with it.
So when you were in the shed, it was like a tree got uprooted from the storm and crashed through the shed and hit you. Is that what it was?
It was a corroded tree. And then, it was trimmed and outside of my yard, and it fell into my backyard. So it was just pretty much top heavy, I guess, on my side of the yard. You know, there was like no roots on the other side.
When I was reading about you, Brad, one of the things that caught my attention is it's interesting that we kind of started this conversation off with you talking about picking up a Bible in prison, but you said at one point in time, your mom said to you, like, you were talking to your mom, or I think this was on one of your posts on your social media, and you said your mom was like, you forget how an injury like this affects the people around you. And your mom said something to the effect of like, why my son? And you said, because like, she asked God, like, God, why my son? And you said to her, because God knows I can handle it.
Exactly. And not that it's easy. Like,
I get that. Yeah. Trust me.
I look at these spinal cord injury stories all the time on Facebook, and it really like makes me hurt sometimes because I feel like I've been there, but people coddle themselves too much, man. And I mean, you're gonna hurt, but at the end of the day, it doesn't get easier. You get stronger. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it comes down to. It really doesn't get easier. Like I have a lot of times where my day starts off literally shitty, and I've had people message me, "What do you do if you have a shitty day?" And I'm just like, I clean myself up and get back to work. Like, what do you mean? You know, like, I mean, it sucks. Like, yeah, it sucks while you're there and you have shit all over you, but when you go and get done, get out of the shower, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad.
Oh, you're talking like your day actually literally starts off shitty.
Yeah,
like,
or either way you want to look at it, literally or figuratively. But yeah, seriously, you just clean it up and you start over the next day. Like I have those days too. I've had them a lot, but for the most part, I'm so happy. Like I'm exhausted today, but I'm happy.
When they told you were paralyzed, you said you couldn't remember, like, and you said you took it really well. It didn't, like, you were kind of, I mean, I guess the best way to put it is like you were okay with it when they told you?
When my mom told me I was paralyzed, my response was, have you talked to your sister? Because I hadn't talked in 2 or 3 years. And I knew that she was there because my mom actually had just landed or drove to Orlando. So she was in Florida when that happened, when I got paralyzed. So my aunt came, and that was my first response, is to see if they talked for the first time. And then she was like, yeah. And then you're paralyzed, and I was just like, oh, and I didn't cry or anything. I think I just kind of knew. Of course, tears came later and whatnot, but it's not something that hit me right away. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I wasn't the smartest kid growing up, and I knew that. And, going back to school, right when you get there senior year, what's the first thing these teachers say? Well, guys, you should know exactly what you're doing next year in college. And I'm just like, God, you guys don't even have a fire escape for me here. I don't know how I'm even getting out of here if there's a fire. So it was just really weird. And like, I'm still And people didn't know this. I would like skip class, and I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I think in those days I was taking all the pain pills they gave me, and definitely wasn't taking them the right way. I was abusing those for sure. Showing up to school like no 17-year-old should. But I remember skipping class and missing class sometimes, and sometimes it wasn't even because of that. Sometimes it'd be just because I pissed or I shit myself and I was too embarrassed. Like, you know what I mean? Like nowadays, I don't even care. Like I've gone to a bar and I didn't wear a Depends or something because I didn't, plan on drinking. And I'm like, fuck, I'll have a few drinks. And I'm like, fuck, I pissed myself. And you know what? The girl's like, what's that? I don't care. I admit it now. But back then when it first happens and you're 18, oh,
I don't know, man. I tell you what, I'm not 18 and I would have trouble admitting that if I pissed myself at this point in my life. Sometimes like when I got to go to the bathroom, like when I got to pee, I got to pee. Like I can't hardly get my pants off fast enough. I got to pee. And I think to myself sometimes like, what if I was, because there've been times where I've been injured, I've had knee surgery or some other injury where I can't move very quickly. I remember I had my shoulder surgery. My shoulder was dislocated, and like getting my pants unbuttoned, like if you wait to that point where you're like, I gotta pee, like trying to do that with your wrong hand and only one hand and undoing your belt. And God, and I was just like, man, if I was in a wheelchair, I don't know what I would end up pissing myself half the time.
People do kind of get weirded out when I come up in the restroom and I just use the urinal. They're just like, do you need help? No, sometimes that happens too. Yeah. But I mean, those are things you don't think about though. We cath, most of us do, but every injury is different. So like me, I can't tell when I piss. So actually like I usually go every 30 minutes to an hour because of how much water I drink. And then, but like I said, if I go out to a bar or something, I know I'm going to drink, and drinking, alcohol is a diuretic. It's going to make you piss anyways. I'll throw a Depends on it. I have no shame in that. I don't care. But other than that, like it really sucks when I'm on diet and we have to flush water out. So like the last 2 days or 2 days before, when you're supposed to drink 2 gallons of water. I remember last competition, I'm just sitting on the bed and it depends, like with nothing else on. And my friends are like, come on, like, let's go out or something. I was like, unless it's to the pool, I'm not going anywhere because I just keep pissing myself because you're just drinking water so much.
When I would cut weight, because I would walk around during my career fighting, I would walk around about 208, like would be my walking weight, but I would weigh at 185. And so about 3 weeks prior to the actual weight cut, we would start water loading, and I would do 3 gallons of water a day. And it was just horrible all around. I can remember coming to church one time, and in the sanctuary, like the preacher's like, no drinks in the sanctuary. And I was just like, look, preach, I need to have this gallon of water with me, because if I can't be drinking, like this is like at an hour and a half, 2 hours out of my Sunday. And if I can't drink this water, I'm going to be stuck on my water load.
I didn't know you guys
I
did
got to be
that.
constantly sipping.
That's cool.
Oh yeah. The approach on weight is different for me than it is for you, because to a point, I don't care aesthetically how I look. Like, it's not about the aesthetics. It's about physical performance. At the end of the day, when you're cutting that much water, so I'll literally, like, I'll preserve as much as I can. I'll maintain my water load up until like Wednesday night. I'll drink I would drink 3 gallons all the way up until Wednesday night. I would weigh in on a Friday, and then I would go from 3 gallons on a Wednesday to Thursday. I would get 1 liter, and that's it. And then Thursday I would do most of my sauna work. Like I usually would split my weight cut. I would do half my sauna work in the evening on a Thursday and half my sauna work in the morning on a Friday. So I would literally, from like, call it, I don't know, Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon to Friday afternoon, I'm losing somewhere around 18 to 20 pounds in those 2 days.
What?
Yeah. And it's just all water management and just sauna work, in and out of the saunas. And so it's, but then we would also keep in mind, like, I don't have to maintain that, right? You have to maintain it when you're on stage.
Yeah, you want some water.
When you're up there, like flexing, like you could cramp up if you don't do your water cut properly. So and this was at a time where you could still IV, like we were still allowed to IV at that time. It wasn't illegal. So I would typically step off the scales at call it like 5 o'clock on a Friday night, somewhere in that time frame, 5, 6 o'clock. And I would have from 6 o'clock Friday until I usually fought, like, as the main event, around midnight on a Saturday. to gain all my weight back. So I would typically walk back in the ring somewhere around 205.
Did you like get super ripped too? Because to me, that's one of the hard parts in bodybuilding is the water manipulation. Because to be honest, I've only done 10 shows or 11 shows.
Yeah.
So I'm still new and I haven't found my formula. But it's always interesting hearing how people, when they cut the water out, when they start drinking it.
You know, I mean, because for me, but I'm at a point where I've depleted so much water that I almost have like my cornerman carrying me up onto the scale. Like I'm not functional. I don't think I could get through. What's your posing routine? How long is a posing routine for you? 2 minutes?
Yeah, good 2 minutes. Most we're on stage is probably like 10 minutes.
I don't think that I could stay on stage for 10 minutes holding a 2-minute posing routine where I'm like holding like tension, and I don't think I could at the point of weigh-in.
Oh yeah, I can see that. We want to hold some water. Like, I mean, so many people have different theories and different approaches and formulas or whatever you want to say. We like to go for the older school look too, where we're not so grainy. We want our muscles looking fuller. And a little bit of water, like if you don't have any water at all, your muscles just look flat. You know what I mean? You got to have some water in there to make them look fuller. So, but then I sweat it all out. We're still working on that part.
When I cut weight, I have a picture of me the last time I cut weight, and it's just my knees are bony, my eyes are sunken into my head. Like I look like walking death. And when I show people that picture, they're like, Lord of mercy, wow, I can't even believe. Like I don't even know how I made 85. And now I walk around like my physique actually looks better now than it did when I was competing as a fighter. But you know, that's the difference of instead of doing 25 to 30 hours of physical training a week where you're constantly eating into the muscle. Now I'm probably somewhere in about an 8-hour time range. Yep. The amount of time that I spend in the gym, training, bag work, whatever it is I'm doing, probably about 7-8 physical hours of working out a week. So my physique, it looks different. Like I can tell I look fuller, and I actually look healthier, which is quite nice. But yeah, it was just much different at that point in time. And so when I was actually gaining my weight back, I would drink about 1.5 gallons of water, maybe 2 gallons. I would drink 1.5 gallons of water and IV 1 liter before I would even get to the point where I felt like maybe I needed to pee.
Oh shit. Yeah. I've done that before.
Yeah.
We have a few drinks before. The night before, I have like 4 or 5 drinks of alcohol to help flush out the water. And it, like I said, it's still difficult. Like I think out of all my shows, I think I've done it correctly once or maybe twice. So it's just really tough for me.
Okay, so when you were injured, why did you choose wheelchair bodybuilding?
I did basketball first.
Did you?
So there was a lot to it. Like I always enjoyed lifting, always was into it. And I think I just kind of got lost and didn't know where to start. And I eventually got into the gym when I would go and play basketball. I would work out and play basketball, but I caught myself like lifting more. And someone approached me and was like asked me if I wanted to compete. And I told him I would if I could get my diet right, learn how to eat right, because that was my biggest problem, was not eating. I actually even have my duodenum's compressed a little bit. It's called SMA, superior mesenteric artery syndrome. And pretty much my artery lays on my duodenum and it compresses it. So I get like really bad stomach pain every morning and a lot of time throughout the day. But I couldn't figure out how to eat. And I started with like shakes and stuff. And he was telling me what to eat, like real foods would digest better. So I started eating real foods and I started gaining weight. So I told him, and I was really on my diet too, even though I had no plan to compete. But then I told him, I was like, all right, I'll compete, because with the basketball, it's so hard to get these guys in wheelchairs together more than once a week or even once a week, because, there's not many people in wheelchairs around anyways. And then also I'm so competitive. Like when I would go to these games, like I'm diving out of my, like, well, your chair's attached to you, but I'm diving in the stands. Like I'm crazy. And like, I really am like that. And there's just so much to it that I didn't like about the game. Man, I was 6'5". I could dunk like trying to play basketball.
I get it. That's like I'll have people say to me, man, you should do like a legends fight with somebody. And I'm like, that's like saying you're not good enough to compete anymore. So go fight old people because it's like, no, once once you've climbed Everest, you don't want to go climb like a hill.
Yes, that is hilarious. That is so funny. You're like, don't come at me, man. Oh, if anybody's ass.
So, but no, man. I mean, so I get it. Like when you're really good at a sport, and then you're kind of, in your mind, you're like, man, I'm reduced to this. Like this is not. I can dunk. This is not basketball to me. Kind of in essence, I can understand that completely. Oh, yeah. I did some work with the. I was a spokesperson for the DAV, Disabled American Vets, for a couple years, and I went to their winter games one year. And have you ever played sledge hockey?
No, I've seen that.
We probably played about an hour game.
Oh, okay.
And dude, but I'll tell you what, man, I got the crap beat out of me. Those guys, as soon as I got on their ice, they're like, oh man. UFC champ Rich Franklin's here, like, and obviously I've not been in in this little apparatus before. This I don't know if it's called a sledge or whatever, but man, I mean, they were checking me and knocking me off balance.
They pick on the able bodies. That's what they call them.
Oh yeah, is that what they're called?
It's hilarious.
Well, on top of it, I'm not only just an able body, but I'm an able body who is like known for my athleticism. So it's like, oh, okay, Mr. Athlete, let's see how good you are. So yeah, that was definitely a lesson learned for me. And I mean, it's a fun game though. I really got into it as best I could anyway, but clearly just 100% outclassed on that ice.
Yeah, those guys are good too, especially people that have been in it. I've noticed people that have been in a chair their whole lives. They're very talented with their arms. Like they're really quick. Those are the people that are quicker than me and like faster in a chair. And I'm just like, they used to get on my nerves because you just didn't expect it. It'd always be someone you didn't expect. And you'd be like,
I'll tell you, when I was at their winter games, because I snowboard, and so we go to the top of this hill. We're in Aspen, and it's not a hill, it's a mountain. So I'm at the top of this mountain, and I was hanging out with this gentleman. He's a triple amputee. He'd lost both his legs and one arm, and so he had a fitted casting that came down into a monorail for him to ski on. And then he had on the arm that he had lost, he had another like attachment that came on his arm, and it was another railing. And then in his full arm, he had a pole that he could use for guiding. Oh my God. And so, he and I were like clowning with each other the whole day. And we get to the top of that hill, and I said to him, I said, "You want to race to the bottom?" And he looks at me, he's like, "If you can keep up." And I was like, whatever. This guy takes off, man. And I mean, like, I couldn't even think about catching him. And we get to the bottom, and I was like, what the? And one of the other people from the DAV, they're like, he's like, by the way, that guy's a silver medalist at the Paralympics. And I was like, oh, like I didn't even have a chance catching up with him. So I mean, yeah. It's amazing how good somebody can become athletically to make an adaptation when something like that happens.
Oh yeah, these kids, I've played with so many talented kids, and like I said, they're just in chairs. They're fast as hell too. I see it all the time.
In the bodybuilding community, when you're competing, because you talked about there's not a lot of people in wheelchairs. Like for basketball, how deep are the class? Like how many competitors you typically competing against?
Wheelchair bodybuilding's been around for a minute, but they're actually starting to give recognition by adding them to the other pro shows with like other pros.
Yeah.
So like Dallas Europa Games was one of the first shows to really give us the opportunity to compete on the stage with them, and then it was the Arnold was added in 2016. The Olympia was in like 2019. They're actually in the works with the UK right now. I think they just added Toronto Pro. But basically, it's been tough this last few years since I've gotten in, because COVID basically happened right after I got in. Right after my first Olympia. But we get up to like 9 people, 10 people at the Olympia, as long as COVID doesn't restrict travel and whatnot. But The issue right now is a lot of the older guys are older, and I've been trying to take it upon myself to kind of spread awareness. Me being 30 years old, I use social media a lot more than others to help get these other amateurs to compete. And now I think they've added like almost a dozen amateur shows since last year or close to it.
Oh,
so,
nice.
and that's what's going to drive our pay up as well. And a lot of the issues, like I would have did UK, but I'm moving, that's in September. Not only would I have to get jabbed, which I don't really feel comfortable doing, but I would have to get my passport, which I don't have. I should get anyways. But I don't know if I have time to do that, but also pay, even if I were to do well, $3,000 is not going to even really
cover the expenses.
Yeah. And so, Dallas, when I go there and, if I win $2,000. At the end of the day, I probably lose out if you start taking into consideration the massages, everything I put into it. Of course, I want to do it anyways. Like I love competing, and that's where, we get sponsors involved. But sponsors also want to see that there's a following for the sport where there's people that are interested in it. And I understand how it goes. It's just like, just like sponsors look for people that have a following because they got to make their money too. So
yeah, for sure. You should connect with organizations like the DAV, like disabled vets and stuff, because I would imagine that former military guys that have been injured would really like that. This would be something that they would want to get into. I'm sure that they're probably aware of it or whatever, but there just would be good connections that way. I have had a couple friends that I've helped with just various shows and just all the prep that goes into it, everything down to the tanning. And, by the time you go to these shows, particularly if you're an amateur, but I mean, even some smaller pro shows, like by the time you factor in your travel and food and everything that goes into it, like you basically come back from an event with a negative return until you start landing sponsors. Anyway, it's like bodybuilding is truly a passion sport. And I understand that because when I got into MMA, my first amateur fight was 1998. And this was at a time when like MMA was banned and still in like 46 of the 50 states or something like that. So there was no thought in my head like, hey, I'm going to do this as a career. I just was like, oh, this is fun. I can actually punch people and not get arrested. That's awesome. And so it truly was like a passion sport for me.
I don't spend a lot of money. I mean, I would eat the food anyways. You know what I mean? Supplements, I actually just dropped my supplement company. I was very thankful for them. I really do love their supplements, but I felt like I was doing more for them than they were doing for me. Well, I don't have a crazy following, but my TikTok has like 30 something thousand. And then, my IG has like 10,000. And at that point, when they're telling me I need more of a following to, get them to help me out with like paying for a hotel or whatnot, well, I don't use your supplements anyway. So really, I'm just showing it, you want me to show off your supplement 3 times a week and I don't even use them. What am I getting out of this? You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm at, which, and then also a lot of these people they do sponsor, I look at and I'm like, they've looked the same for 5 years. Like, and the cool thing is like, I said this 3 years ago when I started taking this serious. I saw the first year, the progress I made, even if you look for my national shows to my Dallas show in 2019, you can see the difference. You're like, oh shit, like he took this shit. Like he really was on his shit. And since then I've weighed 95% of my meals since 2019 probably. And so I know in 5 to 6 years that I'll be one of the best because all these other guys are retiring. I do see there's new nice guys coming up and there will always be someone coming bigger than me or better. But I also think I bring aesthetics with my size and my length that a lot of people are going to have trouble.
So if you were able-bodied, what would you weigh? Like, what would your weight be at? Like, if you were proportionate to your upper body size, what would you say your walking weight would be if you were able-bodied?
I will say this. I weighed 215 when I was in the, before I was in the hospital before my accident. And then within like 6 months from atrophy, I was down to 165. And I don't think a lot of that was upper body. My upper body was probably stronger too. So I know I lost about 50 to 60 pounds of leg muscle. And like my legs are super tiny now, man. I'm like, holy, what happened? Like when I eat, why is it not going to my butt? You know what I mean? Like,
because it's going to your biceps and delts, man. You can see them on the screen. Like from the time of injury, how long was it until you were actually in a chair moving?
dude, they get you up in there right away, man. It was BS. and that's where my mom worked at the hospital I was at. So when she got back, she actually was the floor nurse of the emergency department there. So she checked on me a lot, knew everybody, and made sure I was good. And I had a lot of support from friends. But I remember it was like 3 days after surgery, they moved me to the rehab hospital. And morning one, wake up, sit up. And dude, I remember I felt like I was just wobbling, man. I was like, this is like, I think I was probably crying. Like it hurt so bad. Like they were like, yeah, you're gonna have to go through therapy. And I was like this, like in this much pain. I was like, no. And they're like, yeah, you're going through it. Like, I wonder if people just don't do it. Can you say no?
Oh yeah,
or
for
do
sure.
They just force you.
Yeah, you can't listen. I remember when I had my shoulder surgery, and I had a 270-degree labrum tear in my shoulder towards the end of my career. And I had this, I tore it in September, like at the beginning of September, and I was able to get surgery, heal, rehab, recover, and start training and get myself back into shape, and then get fight ready by June of the following year, 9 months later. This is a 270-degree tear, along with some rotator cleanup that I had done. And I could remember, like, when I went into the surgeon I had did an amazing job. Dr. Hess just did an awesome job on my shoulder.
Those are hard to back.
Yeah, I treated rehab like I treated like as a job, which it is. I'm an athlete. It's my job. So I go into rehab, and these people were amazing. And for me, it was pretty easy at first, because it was like my strength is fine, and I had like during the week after, like I'd hooked my arm up to electrodes. Like I put an electric stim unit on my shoulder to stimulate, so that it would just like stimulate the muscles, like, to keep the muscles from atrophying as much as possible. So at least some electric current, nothing crazy, because I didn't want it like jolting my shoulder around, but it was just putting some electric through there. Between that and the ice that I did for the first week, I think it really helped me recover. But I would get in there, and I mean, man, these people, they were cranking on me, like once stretching my arm out. I thought they were going to re-tear my shoulder. and I was like, and I told them, I said, listen, I mean, they knew who I was. And they were like, I said, I will do everything and only the things you tell me to do. And I promise I won't veer from the program if you promise you'll push me as hard as possible. And so I would be in there and whatever rehab I was doing compared to whatever is standard. And I just remember, like, I was in there working every day, and I'm sweating, like just doing like shoulder things, like stupid. And I'm sweating, and they're stretching me out, and I'm in pain. And I remember there was this lady in there. She was probably, I'm guessing, mid-60s, and she had a shoulder injury, and they had her like taking these sliders and run it up and down the wall. And I was like midway through, and I just remember at one point in time, she started complaining, like, she's like, she says, how many of these you want me to do? And he says 15. And she's like, oh. and I'm a patient there too, right? And I was like frustrated, because I'm like sweating and dripping, and I'm working my butt off, and all these other people are just like just lackadaisically, just like do. And I was looking, I was like, just shut up and do your 15. Like, straight up. I was like, I have no tolerance for people that are just going to whine about them. Like, you can either live with a bad shoulder the rest of your life, or shut up and do your 15.
How I
don't want to hear your crap.
It's not, that doesn't make you a bad person. Even like recently, Nick Scott, who started this all recently, he said, I'm not going to tell you what to say, but I'm just going to say some people came out and said they heard you said people need to eat, people in wheelchair bodybuilding. I said, well, they do. They did freaking eat. I said, these guys don't take it serious. They show up to competition and then eat, don't eat enough or eat way too much junk food in the off season and then look the same. I said, if for us to be taken seriously, you have to look like a bodybuilder in a wheelchair, not a person that just works out. And when it comes down to it, you get a lot of these people, and that's not just bodybuilders and wheelchairs. It's a lot of people in the wheelchair community that kind of just give up, and they're kind of like, oh, this hurts. This sucks. Like they say, it's easier to stay in shape than it is to get into shape. It's easier to stay healthy than to get back healthy too. So when once you let yourself go, you're going to have all these underlying conditions, and you're not going to be able to get back the way you were. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that after this pandemic. You know what I mean? Oh shit, my health is really, declined over these years. And I feel for them. Like I said, I've been there, I've done that, but also my mom my friends and family, none of that. No, they would not let me just pity myself all day. And like you said, that's kind of what that is.
Well, if you didn't find bodybuilding, do you think that would have been a possibility for you? Because like, given the fact, say, for example, you did basketball, you obviously weren't satiated by that, either by the fact that you couldn't compete the way that you used to, or the people obviously don't take it seriously like you do. So, I mean, if you didn't find this niche, do you think you could have fallen in like some sort of depressive mode, or is that just not your personality? You would have found something.
I mean, I think I've gone into depressed mode. Like last year I was kind of depressed, or was it maybe a little over a year ago? Like I have different things, hit us like after a bad breakup, and I placed really bad in Olympia and lost a lot of money at the same time. So like, I think that comes and goes, but I do say this because especially with a lot of the deaths in the bodybuilding scene now, a lot of people are like questioning it. And I said, at the end of the day, it's a personal decision, just like everything else. But also, we never talk about the lives it has saved. And I'm not going to say it saved my life, but there's so many times, like even my friends, when I hang out with them now and they're partying and doing their thing, and I'm not going to say what they're doing, but, we have our friends and we don't judge them for that. But also they mention to me, like, and I'm sure your friends, because I'm sure you have some party friends too, and you're just like, I can't live this life anymore. And they understand that, and they're like, they're proud of you. You know what I mean? Like, they understand what you've gone through, and they understand it's kind of saved you and made you who you are today. And I think a lot of my friends understand that, and a lot of people respect that. That's why I'm moving to Tampa, and none of my friends were really like upset about it. They're like, heck yeah, I'm glad you're out of the party life, and I'm sure they wish they could do the same thing, but it kind of saved me from that, man, because it's really easy to drink your life away. And the thing is, once you're drinking, man, that's when people get those pressure sores, and then people think when they get a pressure sore, oh, how do I heal? I'm like, well, also to heal like scabs and wounds that you have from skin grafts and whatnot, from healing pressure sores, you have to eat protein. You have to eat healthy, because that's how you heal your body. People think that's how you just build muscle, but no, proteins, helps, heal the body as well, like not scabs, but wounds and stuff too. And I think that's where a lot of these people in wheelchairs get confused, is they think it's all going to be handed to them, and it's sad, but they just gotta work on themselves, man. I don't know. Like it kind of saved me. Bodybuilding has. Given
your the stomach issues that you have, what's your daily nutrition like? Like what do you typically eat? I know the last time we talked, I got into I was giving you a hard time about your McDonald's post when you're eating your triple doubles or whatever it was with your fries.
I know, I was thinking about eating my cheat meal today instead of tomorrow. I was like, I could have my cheat meal on air now. It's basically it's pretty clean. 6 days a week. That cheat meal comes on the 7th day. And we talked about how
that's what I used to do.
So it kind of keeps me sane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, and then also at the same time, it kind of controls my cortisol levels. So basically, the less your body thinks you're dieting, the better. You know what I mean? Because when your body knows that you're dieting and you're doing an extreme diet, that's when you hold on to fat, you hold on to water, things like that.
Well, not only that, and you crave things more, right? Like it's like on your when you're not, like, you're off season, and then you can have a little bit of junk, I guess, which I don't do. I'll tell you about my nutrition in a minute, but it's like, but then you don't do it because you can have it. You're like, it's no big deal. But the moment you're like, no, I can't have this because I'm in contest prep, or I got to make weight, or whatever it is, suddenly you're like, man, I really would like to have some of that, whatever. And then you suddenly start craving things, and you're like, only because you can't have it.
I've learned to curb some cravings. Pickles are a big one for me. Like I'm actually craving pickles right now. And there's,
but you should be able to eat pickles.
Yeah, no, I can. Like pickles, anything like peppers and stuff like that. But my diet's basic, just rice and chicken and beef and potatoes for the most part.
How many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs you try to take in a day? Like, do you track your macros?
Right now I'm at 320 grams of protein, 225 carbs, and 60 fats. We get up usually to about 350 grams of protein at most, 360. But we kind of lower it towards the end. And he just adjusted my macros today, but he also gives me a cheat meal once a week, which is typically on Friday. But I actually still got to go Uber and stuff. And I was just like, tonight I'm going to be so exhausted. I don't even want to have my cheat meal because like I want to enjoy it tomorrow when I'm not tired and I can just sit down on the couch and like, because I actually get to eat. That's not even all I ate that night. Like you saw those 3 chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
I usually get like cheesecakes. Like I'll go to, I'll get like single slices. And I put down my last cheat meal was like a 10,000 calorie cheat meal or something.
I used to do the same thing. And as I've gotten older, the quality of the foods that I eat. So for me now, I don't crave sugar that much, which is crazy because I was younger, like I was a sugarholic. I grew up on things like Fruity Pebbles and whatnot because right. So now I know what you're dealing with for your cheat meal. You'd be Ubering tonight and be like,
no, I would. They're easy to put down too.
But when you grow up on a healthy diet of that kind of stuff as a teenager, then it's difficult. Like that's what your palate craves. It craves that kind of stuff. And so for my cheat meals, I would do these epic cheat meals each week. And there was a time where I was in California and a friend of mine started running his mouth about a Krispy Kreme donut eating contest. And I was like, bro, I will smoke you. Like I'm telling you. And so we went and we ordered, I went in and we each got a dozen Krispy Kremes. And I told him straight up, I was like, I'm going to eat 2 Krispy Kremes to your 1. And I don't know how many. I think he got down 5 donuts because Krispy Kremes, man, that's like it is a sugar hit.
Yeah,
like it's a bomb, and you will start feeling like, you'll start feeling lightheaded. And he ate 5, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna eat more than double what you ate. I said I'm gonna go ahead and eat my whole dozen. I said I'm taking your remaining 7 because you don't even deserve those. I ate my dozen, and then probably about 2 hours later for lunch, with my lunch, I had the remaining 7 that he didn't eat, and just this was a typical kind of days for me. And I mean, it was the whole day. It was, it was burgers, pizza, whatever. And so now when I'm craving like junk food, I'll typically, and this will sound crazy, but now I just, if I'm craving something sweet, I just give myself some extra fruit.
No, fruit's good. I like frozen fruit too.
Some frozen cherries or something.
Just the texture, I guess it is, and I guess the taste is a little bit different.
I don't need things like cheesecakes and stuff like that anymore. Like I love tiramisu. That's probably my favorite dessert. And I used to eat like I don't know, like cookies and cream ice cream was my favorite. And I would take an entire half gallon of cookies and cream ice cream, stick it in the microwave for about 25 seconds, just enough to soften it up so that you could eat it properly, so that it wasn't like you were like digging into this brick of ice cream the whole time. And I would eat an entire half gallon of cookies and cream ice cream, and those kinds of things. Like I look now and I'm like, man, it's so bad for your health. Like aesthetically, you can get away with doing that once a week, and I could get away with doing it once a week as a fighter. But I would do my cheat meals. Like I would train on a Saturday, and then when I was done, I would get up and eat a good breakfast, go train, and when I was done training, the rest of the day was it was gloves off.
Yeah, whatever you
pun intended. Yeah, whatever I wanted. And I did it on Saturday because Sunday was my off day of training, and I would spend the entire day Sunday in a food coma.
Yeah.
For my nutrition, I would eat 6 meals a day. So roughly I have 42 meals a week, right? Well, I'm five of those days I'm eating my meals. So, I got 30 meals done, and my Saturday and Sunday technically is 12 more meals. Well, I would hit my Saturday morning meal, and then the rest of that day, the remaining 5 meals were just whatever I wanted. So I've screwed up 5 of my meals for a cheat day, which is fine. But then I was in such bad shape when I woke up in the morning because it's like trying to put like 87 octane in a Formula One car. It just doesn't work.
It's like a little hangover.
Yeah, and so Sunday I wouldn't eat the 6 meals I was supposed to eat. Maybe I would only get like 3 meals in because I was so sick that day. And so I'm like, well, I'm technically screwing up 2 of my days. So I got to a point where if I was craving something sweet, I would do maybe like some good quality dark chocolate covered almonds, something like that, as opposed to going and buying something like an M&Ms or just a traditional candy. But even after I quit eating sugar, like I've just gotten to the point now where I'm like, if I'm craving something sweet, usually fruit does the trick. Occasionally, like something like maybe like a rice cracker with a little bit of honey on it. And honey has like a nice taste to it. I'm golden. That's it. I'm good to go.
I'm learning that too, that just like I'll drink a diet soda a lot and things like that. I like some sweetness, but I can do artificial sweeteners and things too. But no, yeah, that's basically me.
That's going back to what you were talking about sponsors and stuff. That's what I've always had a problem with. I've never really had any supplement sponsors in my career because I don't do any artificial colors, no artificial sweeteners, no artificial flavors. So that eliminates like almost every pre and post workout drink, most of your protein supplements. Like, so, the things I do are real clean. I will allow myself to have some stevia. Yeah. But that's about it, man. And so it's difficult. Like I don't even have that outlet of like, oh, I'm craving something sweet. Like, let me eat this.
Craving sweet comes from sugars too, though, just a little bit. Even like eating that at night, like I'll eat veggies at night or try to, because it keeps you from getting that cravings for sugar. But yeah. And then also like a lot of people I know will be like, oh, I need to gain weight. I know people that'll be like, I got to eat 2 McDoubles a day. Like you said, and that happens to me, is it can slow down your metabolism so much that you're actually affecting it negatively. I like to think of it as it slows my metabolism down just enough where I'm holding on to some of those calories. You know what I mean? But if you continue to do that every day, it's not going to work like that. You want to eat real food and get the most out of everything. Even all my cheat meal days, like sometimes I'll do it where I eat all my protein and just no fats, no carbs until my cheat meal, and I can eat whatever I want because I know in that cheat meal I'm going to have a whole bunch of fats and a whole bunch of carbs. Well, I've already reached my protein goal.
So you don't have problems digesting any of your proteins like beef or chicken, or does your body have trouble breaking that down given your stomach issues?
It definitely does, but I've never taken like any of that too seriously. Like I just thought about that the other day when people are like, I laugh when people are like, oh, I'm bloated. I'm like, it's just fucking part of it. Like, I mean, every animal I know farts, is gassy. You know what I mean? Like, you think animals are just like, oh, I'm gassy today. No, it's just part of it, I guess. Yeah. I will say, like, yeah, beef. I see good gains from beef, though. So why am I going to act like beef farts are bad? It's just part of it. I eat so much, that's just part of it. And luckily, my digestion's always been good. My mom's like 5'10", 220. My dad was 6'5", 350. So I have really big parents. And I never got really heavy or overweight. So the more muscle I build, I feel like I'm just easy. I just can digest anything. I don't know one food I won't eat.
Let me shift over to training. When you're in the gym training, I read a quote from you on one of your social posts where you said, get comfortable getting out of your chair, like force yourself to get out of your chair, use every piece of equipment you can. So let me ask you this. When you first went into the gym, were you at all, I don't know if the right word is intimidated, but
intimidated?
Were you?
Yeah, because I couldn't tell if everybody was looking at me because I was in a wheelchair or because I'm really, really good looking.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was competing, I used to have black eyes all the time, and I'd have them so often that I forget I have a black eye. And I'm out one night with my friends, and people keep looking at me. All these girls keep checking me out, and I was kind of like this, like, man, I got it going on tonight. And then I walk in the bathroom and I got this black eye, like my eyes almost swollen shut, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I have a black eye.
Funny.
So when you get into the gym, then like what does your week look like? Like your training regimen, what do you do for cardio, for example?
Cardio has basically been cut out because my cortisol levels were just so high that because I was constantly doing this motion on the arm bike. And basically we realized anything I do is going to put a lot of wear and tear on my back. My injury level is like a T8. So I have my top 4 abs. So a lot of people are like, oh, his legs don't work. It's actually almost half my torso too that doesn't function. So
wow. Okay.
the people that I compete against, their injuries are typically lower. And I don't know if I'm sure they do go through back pain, but their back pain might just be a little lower. But me being so top heavy, I just get so much pain from doing cardio that we cut it out. But Rich Gasperi was always like a big fan of sacrificing calories over cardio. He was like, because you're less likely to lose muscle, but also, I mean, to me, it saves time. I don't have to do the cardio, and also I don't have to eat the extra food. I would love to eat the extra food. But like, and then at the end of the day, if your cortisol levels go up, you're going to hold water. And, I also started working out 4 days a week instead of 5, to help control that too. Just using my upper body so much. Like I don't know if it's tendonitis or whatnot. Like I haven't really had since the Olympia, which is like 6 months ago, almost 5 months ago or whatever. I've had like 3 arm days, full arm days where I could really hit them hard because I'm just going through injuries all the time from doing all these shows.
You never quit using your arms.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can walk around, and if I have a bad arm day, like I'm walking, and when I walk to my car, I have to open my door, but I can leave my arms alone. Yeah, I got to drive or whatever, but I'm not using my arms. Like you're wheeling around in your arms, and I can only imagine, for example, I mean, dude, if I had to like push myself in and out of a wheelchair onto weight equipment, or to get into the car to drive, like, and then having to break my own chair down to put it in the back seat or the trunk or whatever, that stuff in itself is a workout. Like you're working out. It's, that's not easy. So, and on top of it, you have to train. So it's like when you come out of a bad arm day or a good arm day or a tough arm workout, it's like your arms don't get left alone. Like if you just went and smashed your biceps and now you got to pick this chair up and move it around. And
since I worked so much this week, in injury prep, we're starting to cut calories. I mean, I'm still eating a good amount, but I think we're at like 2,800 calories. But after a gym workout or a workout arm day, full arm day, like me, I don't get a lot of pain in my back until the end of the night. But that's what probably gets to me the most, and like the tightness. Having to stretch and whatnot, not so much the soreness. Because I mean, just constantly stretching my shoulders. I feel like I constantly got to stretch. But getting around, like moving around at the gym, I basically counted that as my cardio, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's why I was asking. I didn't know if maybe like if you wheeled, like you're like, well, I just go to the high school track and wheel a mile or wheel 3 miles, or I wouldn't even know.
I've done that. I've wheeled before, and I've taken that into consideration, but it's been hard on my shoulders. But yeah, when I'm moving around at the gym, like I'll do supersets to keep my heart rate up. Because at the end of the day, I guess cardio is all it is keeping your heart rate up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because there are other machines you could do. It would be about finding a machine. Like for example, like you could do an endless rope machine. You could do the skiers. You could probably even you would have to makeshift it somehow, but you could even use like a Concept 2 rower, and
I've seen people do one.
There are days where I do like on our back days where we'll do, so I'll mix different energy systems. So I might like lift heavy and then go do something explosive or like a conditioning or a cardio thing. So maybe I'll do, I don't know, something like some heavy bent over rows and then follow that with 30 seconds of a Concept 2 rower, but I lock my legs out and I'm just rowing with my like and it's this explosive motion, and I'm like, okay, let me see how many meters I can cover over a 30-second sprint, for example, but it's just an upper body sprint. So there are things that you could do. It's just with you constantly using your arms, you're just putting wear and tear and wear and tear.
The shoulders, the elbows, but like the back pain too, because I have my rods I have like a big 12-inch rod and then like 12 screws that are about 2 inches long. And when I get lean, I can feel them. But I don't really pay attention to too much, but when I do stuff over and over, like say rowing, or constantly moving my arms, like in a arm bike motion or arm cycle motion, it gets to the middle of my back where all that hardware is, and I could feel like the nerve pain. And that's just basically what we tried to avoid. And I was like, as long as I can avoid that, I'll sacrifice the calories. But also, I seem to hold size that way. We last time we did cardio during competition, I came in really, really lean. It was really bad. I looked shredded, but I looked small.
Have you ever read Mike Mincer's training philosophies? Check out a book called The Mincer Way. Mike Mincer was a bodybuilder in the 90s. And if you don't know who he is, amazing physique. Like probably one of my top 5 physiques that I admire in my life. But Mincer, his basic training philosophy was do one set to failure. And so he talked about a positive, a negative, and a static resistance in the set. And I mean, I've done it before. It's miserable, but you're essentially just doing one set that you fail on. But that might be with your body type. I would tinker around with that. Like, look into his training philosophies.
I will.
Yeah, tinker around with that, because it might actually be good for you, because he would do one set to failure, and you can read about it, but he would exhaust like his positive, his positive resistance, then he would exhaust his negative resistance, then he would exhaust his static resistance. I think it was that order. I'd have to reread. It's been a while.
I'm huge on tempo. I'm all into tempo lifting. The videos I post of me lifting heavy is I do that because people, that's how you get follows. So I'm like, I don't do this all the time. I do that like once in a while. People are like, what do you bench? I'm like, I don't know what I max. I really don't.
This part of benching, a big part of benching is leg drive, right? And
the balance. It's crazy because when I first started lifting, I couldn't bench the bar without wrapping a belt around me in the bench. And now I can do 225, 15 to 20 times without a belt on. It's a bitch. Half of it,
you can bench more than me.
Half of it's like, because like I said, I only have my top 4 abs. So I if I go down like with my left side quicker than my right, I'll fall, so I have to come down and really control it. And, but bench press is not a good chest workout to me. But I am very into my tempo lifts. I've always been into, the eccentric and concentric motions. And I actually did just start cutting my workouts down. I just dropped one exercise per day. So one movement per day. And I'm being more intentional on my workouts and really focusing on keeping the same tempo, not too slow, but controlled enough and making sure I push to my max without like messing up my form. So going till form failure, but being very intentional and getting in and getting out, like same amount of rest, a minute or two. And I'm trying that. And it kind of sounds basically what you're saying, because I've been hearing a lot about that. Is a lot of these guys go in and get out because injuries. I mean, the more you move, obviously. It's
crazy thing, man. And you find this, like, I've gone through periods where I lift heavy and I do less reps, and that puts wear and tear on your body. But if you lift light and you do a lot of reps, it puts wear and tear on your body in a different kind of way, and it's like, so you're kind of in that situation, damned if you do, damned if you don't type of thing. So either way, you're putting wear and tear on your body. So it's just about minimizing that wear and tear while maximizing the benefit. And that's kind of essentially, when Mincer was talking in his training philosophy, he's like, how many sets do you do? Because so my mind automatically goes back to these bodybuilding principles I learned in the 90s, where I'm like, oh, well, I need to do somewhere between 12 and 16 sets per body part when I'm training. And it's like, well, who made that up? Like, why not just 6 or why not 20 or, why not 50 sets? And so that was kind of the basis.
Those 52, those are cool too. Those are awesome. 50 reps, not sets. My fault. Yeah, but
today's was sets of 25, man. And I'm telling you that what I did on that squat machine today, just like, was not good for me. So
you'll feel it tomorrow.
I'll sleep well tonight. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So for listeners, where can they catch up with you if they want to follow you on socials and whatnot?
My Instagram's IFBB Pro Bradley Betts, and then my TikTok is Mr. Leg Day.
Yeah. Mr. Leg Day.
Yeah,
Dude, I love your sense of humor about this, the Mr. Leg Day handle on TikTok. That's not obviously a joke that I could make with you on a show like this and get away with it, but the fact that you do is pretty cool. You know, we live in this world where everybody is sensitive about things, and you know, anything from, I don't know, stereotypes to, I don't know, race issues or whatever. It's like, and I'm not the kind of person that's I'm not sensitive about anything with that. Like, you know, my friends, they don't pull punches with me. They'll make fun of times I got knocked out or whatever. And it's just like, man, if I'm going to let that kind of stuff get under my skin, then man, and these are the people that supposedly love me, right? Like they're going to be the ones giving me a hard time. Like, yeah, they're probably actually meaner to me than like people that don't like me, or, you know, like anti-fans or whatever you call the people that you're haters. And but that's just, you know, that's just life. But yeah, it's cool that you can your TikTok handle is Mr. Leg Day. Was Mr. Leg Day taken for Instagram? Because I'm thinking maybe you should just go ahead and switch it up. No,
man. Actually, my Instagram handle was Big Daddy Woo Woo, and like I said, remember I didn't plan on getting my pro card. I just planned on competing, and I won. And they were like, "Hey, what's your Instagram handle?" And I was like, I gotta change it from Big Daddy Woo Woo, and that's why I just made it IFBB Pro Bradley Betts. So
you should look to see if Mr. Leg Day is taken.
I should. I can switch it back.
Listen, man, I appreciate you coming on, Brad. Thank you for this conversation, man. Truly,
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of takeaways that I get from this personally. You know, like things that will motivate me. You know, the next time I'm in the gym and I don't know, whatever, I'm like complaining about a muscle in my back or something, I'll be like, I don't have rods in my back. Like,
oh, one thing I was going to say about that.
Yeah.
A key point, because you were talking about no excuses. I think a lot of people get us wrong sometimes and think we're saying no excuse not to work out. That's not what I mean. I mean, there's no excuse not to do what you love. A lot of people work so hard and they don't give themselves time to go and do what they love, you know, and then they go and they waste, you know, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, you know, whether it's just sitting on the couch or going and having fun. Go do some things you love, work towards your goals and stuff, because otherwise you're just working to live. You know what I mean? Or living to work, whatever you want to say. So when I say no excuses, which I rarely do say, but I do believe in that. But I mean, no excuse to do, if you love partying, go party. You know, don't let anybody stop you from partying. If you love some sport, or if you love rapping, go rap. Like do poetry, like fighting. If that's what you love, do it. And you know, if you work hard, and I feel like if you actually make no excuses, it's going to make working easier, because you're going to be working to chase your goals at the end of the week. You're going to give yourself money to work for those goals at the end of the week.
I always talk to people. What ends up happening with people is they get so busy in life, and there's a lot of people that are moving around and they're miserable. People don't realize they're miserable because they're so busy that they don't realize like what state they're in. Their busyness pretty much like covers up the fact that they're unhappy people. And you know, I always tell people, if you fly on a plane, for example, you know, when they give you that speech at the beginning, like, and they always say, in the case of that we lose cabin pressure, masks are going to drop. Go, you know, before you try to help anybody else, put your mask on first. And the reason why they do that is because if you don't put your mask on first, and let's say like my natural reaction would to be help the child next to me because they're a child. Well, if in the event of doing that, I pass out because I couldn't get their mask on in time and get mine on, then I'm useless to both of us. Right. And so people in this world, and this is not a statement of selfishness, but people in this world need to learn how to sometimes put themselves first, to take care of themselves, because then you become an optimal running machine. And if you can run on like at an optimal level, then your output is going to be that much better for everybody else. Like you just maximize efficiency or whatever terms you want to use, but you're able to output better for other people. And so many people sacrifice, I got to run my kids to this practice, and I got to go do this thing, and I got to cook these things for this organization. And you're running around all day long, and you never take time for yourself. And it's like, man, take that time. Don't waste time. Don't sit in front of the TV just watching TV unless you're a movie critic or whatever, which you apparently are. So
well, that's kind of how I said with the Thanksgiving thing. You know, I had to make a sacrifice, but you know, bodybuilding is my priority right now. But it's a dream.
it's awesome that if your family understands that too, especially because my family was the kind of family when I was competing. There's like, hey, you know what? I mean, as long as I didn't do it last minute, they'll be like, when I was cutting weight, they'll say, let's move Thanksgiving a week because Rich is cutting weight. So we'll get together next week, or we'll get together in 2 weeks after his fight, or whatever it may be. Like that was what the sacrifice my family made for my career.
They wouldn't do that for me though.
And so I wouldn't have done it for them. So I'm like, no, it's Thanksgiving. I'm not moving anything. So yeah, thanks for being on, man. A great conversation. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Quite Franklin is providing this podcast as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor legal advice, nor a statement of Quite Franklin policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of that product or entity by Rich Franklin or Quite Franklin. The views expressed by guests on the podcast are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Quite Franklin employees or representatives are the views and opinions of the persons expressing them, and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Quite Franklin or any of its officials or principals. Nothing heard on this podcast at any time is medical advice or is intended as medical advice. The listener must always consult his or her personal physician or other qualified medical professional regarding any questions of a medical nature. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact our general counsel.